welcome back to The Wrap. We want to hear your thoughts on what we've been talking about tonight. Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments and let us know. Let's discuss another decision from the Supreme Court that actually pleased liberals regarding fair housing. The Supreme Court ruled today that claims of racial discrimination in housing cases should not be limited by questions of intent. John Fund, can you explain a little bit more about this case and why it's important?
Well, the 1964 we passed the Civil Rights Act, and the basis of it was we want to achieve colorblind enforcement of the law. And in fact, it was written in there that employers would have the right to set any employment standards they wanted as long as they were not discriminatory on race and other factors. Well, now we've evolved or devolved into a situation where bureaucrats have come up with something called disparate impact. So even though you didn't intend to discriminate, even though your policies weren't designed as such, if the percentage of people in your company or in your housing project, in this case, doesn't exactly match the population in your area, that is evidence that there is discrimination even if you didn't intend it, and you can be sued and you can be bankrupted.
Interesting. Rick, there was rumors on Twitter today that you would have actually ruled with the dissent.
I would have. I'm actually with John. I know Heather, I know you agree too on this. It creates an absolutely undue burden on builders and planners. It doesn't make sense. Where before they could have been perfectly innocent in how they planned their communities, never considering race, now they're actually forced by this decision to consider race. And that is never a good thing. So, you know, if you're not an expert on your racial planning, you can be sued now. This is all I can say is, you know, the two takeaways today are: if you have hospital stocks, good for you, and insurance stocks, good for you, and if you own a lot of your own houses that are pre-built, good for you.
Right, right.
Heather?
It is going to be a difficult decision for businesses, you know, and it just goes to show this session of the Supreme Court has been extremely liberal. You know, most of the decisions has been liberal. We're expecting gay marriage maybe tomorrow, and most of us think that that's going to be a decision that is thought to be more liberal.
I think that they're going to split the baby. I think they put this case out today on purpose. What they're going to do tomorrow is say, we're not going to tell states they have to have gay marriage, but they must recognize gay marriage from another state under equal protection. That's what I think they did.
We're recording this episode of the
Yeah,
Daily Wrap as
I
well.
would be surprised at that, but we'll see.
We might have to play back. Interesting. Well, let's switch gears now. Since his extravagant presidential announcement, Donald Trump has made a dramatic jump in the polls. Well, at least according to the latest Fox News poll. In the course of 2 weeks, Mr. Trump has jumped from the bottom half of potential presidential candidates to the #2 spot, right behind Governor Jeb Bush. For those keeping score at home, that's a 7-point increase. And Trump is hot on Bush's heels in the latest CNN New Hampshire poll, finishing second there as well. Mr. Fund, obviously we expected Trump to shake things up, but 7 points is pretty significant in this crowded of a field.
This early, a lot of it is name ID.
Of course.
And I think this is the perfect demonstration of it. Donald Trump had an interesting announcement speech. I call it an eruption, and I'm sure that some people were attracted to his plain talk. I thought it was plain silly talk, but fair enough. He will be a factor. He will be in the debates. He certainly will make them more entertaining. Whether he will make them more illuminating is a separate question.
You say eruption, some would say disruption. You know what, Heather? People don't like politicians these days, right? And they like outsiders, perhaps. And with Trump, there are two things you could say. He's a winner. He has created jobs. I know there's been bankruptcies, but he's been in business for a long time. And I think, you know, overall, the record is probably pretty good. Is that why he's resonating? Because people just don't like politicians. They want something different.
I think people find him fascinating and interesting, and he always says something that people laugh at. I was somewhere today, and he was on the television, and people were just transfixed staring at the TV. I mean, because just waiting to see what it is he's going to say next. I think this will pass. I don't think that people seriously are considering him. I think it's just that he's fun to watch.
Rick, do you think ultimately his birther stance will, if he becomes more of a serious candidate, that other competition will start to bring that up, that, look, this is the guy who said this about the president's birth certificate?
The problem with the premise is he's never going to become a serious candidate.
Okay.
So I'm with John on this one. The reason he's where he is in the polls is because he hosts a show called The Apprentice that many, many people have watched. They buy into the Trump BS from the TV show that he's this extraordinary everything, because he tells you he's extraordinary everything, and this will fade rather soon.
Interesting. Well, regarding the rest of the field, do we have our latest poll that we could throw up really quick, gentlemen? in the control room. There it is. Okay. So Ted Cruz at 4%. You got Carly at 3. That is an increase for her of 1. Cruz has dropped about 4 points, though. That's pretty interesting. Chris Christie, who will announce next week, making it 14 GOP candidates. He has dropped 3 points. Then you have Bobby Jindal, who came into the race yesterday, down 1. John Kasich, who will not announce, and it's hurting him because he's not getting enough exposure. And some people are not happy about that. He is at 2%, would not be in the Fox debate. That's in early August. And then Rick Perry, after a Steve Malzberg interview, apparently has dropped 2 points as well. So, but we mean that in a great way. Just saying, hey, he made a little mistake there, and perhaps that hurt him. I mean, that did get a lot of press. But he said it was an accident, the Charleston shooting. Right. Clearly, he meant incident.
And in context, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. But that's how it works. One bad soundbite, and then before you know it. So anyway, coming up next, Brad Hirschfield joins us. John Fund, thank you very much. More Daily Wrap in just a moment.